Ricky, I wanted to tell some stories that people don't know about you. They know about your Grammy, etc. But before doing music, what did you actually study? What did you actually do?
I've always been into music, and since my childhood, I've been a musician, and either I've been playing music or listening to music, so music has been my life. And when I approached my 12th grade, and everybody in India know that, that's when you have to make your life decisions and you have to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I wanted to be a musician, and I had made a very strong decision that I wanted music to be my career, my profession, my hobby, and I wanted to do music for the rest of my life, till the day I die. And I went and told these exact same words to my father, and he thought I was absolutely crazy. And he said that, what do you mean music? Like you have to do something else. Like music can be a hobby.
Yes.
What are you going to do? So then, we had this huge fight and a huge argument. It lasted for a couple of months. And then at the end of it, I made a compromise with him that I would finish off a degree in dental surgery. And once I finish off my degree, I could do whatever I wanted with the rest of my life. So that's exactly what I did. I finished off my degree. I went to college for 5 years, and in the evenings I would be doing music. And and I passed with flying colors just because I knew that I could not continue this for another year. As soon as I got my degree, I went to my father and very ceremoniously gave him the degree certificate and told him I'm going to be a musician for the rest of my life. And I became a musician. I did not practice even for a single day.
But I want you to tell us the secret of the education system. For the 5 years you studied, you passed just with flying colors, but you yourself told me you don't have a clue of anything about dental surgery. So how can you pass with flying colors and not have a clue of what's happening?
I guess that's a testimonial to the education system itself. I remember this, thank you. I remember Stanley Kubrick, the famous director, he said, he made a very important saying that, that I feel is very important. He said that the education system is dependent on fear. Fear of failing, fear of not being looked up to in society and stuff like that. And fear of failing in the eyes of your parents and stuff. He said that if there is a day when the education system is based on interest and passion, then he said that, this whole world would be a different place. And that's something that I absolutely agree with, because my parents were very fearful of my future. And that's the reason why they did what they did and tried to force me into, practically wasting 5 years of my life. But
No, but I want you to tell me how you did that, the exact way.
Okay, so the technique of how I studied. So basically, my university, the university which dictated the syllabus of my dental studies was the Rajiv Gandhi University. At the time when I was taking my exams, it was 10 years old, which means that they had 2 exams every year, because your regular exams and your supplemental exams. So there were 20 question papers for every subject that were in the past. So what I did was that 4 days before every exam, I would take these 20 question papers and I would by heart the answers to all those 20 question papers. And I realized that if they've not asked a question in the last 20 papers, they're never going to ask it. And I also realized most examiners refer to these old question papers and they ask you questions. So I just did that, and I passed with flying colors in every single exam, never had to re-give an exam, and I got my degree certificate.
Great. So you turned it to your dad and you said, okay, I'm going to be a full-time artist now. And you did a lot of jingles and in the commercial world, etc. And then you decided to do private label.
Yes.
Why did you decide to do that?
I guess I did a lot of commercials. I've done more than 3,000 commercials for almost every single big brand, medium brand, small brand, anywhere in the world. And that made me travel also all over the world. Now, the thing is that it dawned on me that, huge companies are spending a large amount of money on making me produce jingles for them and commercials for them. And at the same time, they're spending even more money, maybe 20 times that money on airing it on television and on radio. So they understood that music is a very, very powerful language and a powerful communication tool, because music is something that reaches deep into the subconscious of a person. And not only do they get a message, but the retention of the message is also extremely strong and very long-lived. So I realized that big and large companies are using music as a powerful tool for driving a message of sales. So why not use that exact same tool to drive a message, a very positive message, and and express myself through it. And that's happening less and less in India, because in India everything is driven by Bollywood, everything is driven by commercial music, such that that every single song in India is either a love song or it's an item song. And, nobody seems to be expressing themselves. If you look at an artist like, let's say, Adele, every time she breaks up with somebody, she writes a whole album on that,
Yeah.
So it's about her life. John Mayer, every time he falls in love with somebody, he writes a whole album on that.
And there's a lot of them.
Exactly. And Coldplay, for example, when they feel politically strong about something, when they feel politically motivated, they write music on that. Same thing with U2. So I realized that our history is not chronicled through music, unfortunately. It's just pop music that's being made. So I realized that I really need to use music as a communication tool to communicate a positive message, to communicate what needs to be communicated to my fans, to my audience. And that's when I set out to make music to just denote or to just convey a positive message.
And you said that, your 14th album is the one that won the Grammy. We'll
Correct.
come to that in a second. But before that, for the 13 albums, you just didn't even release them in India. So where did you find support mostly?
I found support mainly in countries like America, in Australia, Southeast Asia, even in European countries. So various countries. I mean, I would say that most countries besides India.
Yeah.
Even though my music is primarily Indian, my music is primarily classical Indian music fused with Western classical music, but the soul and the heart of the music is Indian, and most of the musicians that I work with are Indian. So that was an unfortunate case because in India, it's very difficult to get into mass media unless you are part of Bollywood. Like, for example, after I won the Grammy for my album, it was number one on the Billboard charts. It was one of the highest selling albums in America. It was also one of the highest played. It was number one on the world radio charts. So one of the highest played albums on radio. But in India, not a single radio station played it. But after I won the Grammy, a couple of radio stations contacted me, and then they sent me their no objection forms, to fill up in order to play the songs on radio. And the essential fields in those forms said actor, actress, and director.
Yeah.
So that's how radio is in India, that it's so deeply rooted within Bollywood and within the movie industry that it's very difficult for any music besides that to be played.
So tell me about the album you did that won the Grammy. Tell us a little bit about how it came about.
So it was not planned to make an album. There is this rather South African flute player, Wouter Kellerman, now a very close friend of mine, one of my best friends. And I've always been a fan of his music. He's been a fan of my music, but we never actually met. We connected on the internet, and we decided that, we have to work with each other. So there was a certain point in time where both of us were in Los Angeles, and we spoke about what do we do together. And then it just came about in the conversation that he had written a song about Nelson Mandela. I had written a song about Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi spent the formative years of his life in South Africa, his country. And Nelson Mandela was heavily inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, my father of the nation. And so basically, I sent him my song, which I had written about Mahatma Gandhi. He added South Africanness to it. He sent me his song about Nelson Mandela. I added Indianness to it. And during that time, for 2.5 years, we traveled all over the world, collaborated with hundreds of musicians everywhere. And in about 2.5 years, as I said, we just had an album ready, and we released that album.
Great. And so after winning the Grammy, you went to meet Prime Minister Modi, and what was a 5-minute conversation ended up being a 3-hour conversation. What came out of that? And your music was played in a very unique location. So tell us about it.
After I won the Grammy, I was very honored that our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, invited me for a private meeting to his office. So my wife and me went, and it was supposed to be a 10-minute meeting. And so during the 10-minute meeting, we just spoke about the Grammy. We spoke about my music. And then it came out that from the heart, I'm a conservationist. And he told me that he was visiting the climate change conference in Paris. And then the conversation extended to almost an hour after that. And we spoke about his philosophies on the environment, on conservation. I spoke about mine. And something that resonated very strongly with both of us is that ancient civilizations anywhere in the world always would live in coexistence with the environment rather than in dominion over the environment. And that was a very, very strong statement to make, because it's just in the past couple of maybe 100 years or maybe 1,000 years that the human race has taken a wrong turn and has a very warped definition of what development is. So basically, we just resonated on this particular fact. Both of us looked at each other, and then we decided that let's make an album on this. And then he told me that if you make an album on this and you make it completely inclusive, involve musicians from all over the world, make it a truly global album, then I will release it at the climate change conference. And I thought, okay, that's motivation enough. And then I went ahead and I collaborated with over 500 musicians, including many Grammy winners, many with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, with Stuart Copeland from the Police, and Philip Lawrence from Bruno Mars, with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, with Shankar Mahadevan, with a whole lot of musicians. We made this album. Our Prime Minister released it at the Climate Change Conference. He gave a copy to every single world leader. And it was just an amazing, amazing experience. And I also got to perform that same album at the United Nations General Assembly that in New York, which you actually witnessed.
Yes, yeah. So you also at that General Assembly shared with us, and I would like for you to show us about, you met the president of Kiribati.
Yes.
And tell us about that story, and we would love to play that music video. Give us the background of that.
So basically what happened was that during the climate change conference, I could not go for it because the Paris attacks just happened before that. And my wife absolutely did not allow me to go because she said that if there is an attack, then, they're only going to save the world leaders. They're not going to care about you, So I could not go for the climate change conference, but I watched it on television. And one person who really inspired me was the president of this country called as Kiribati, Mr. Anote Tong, a very firm voice on advocacy on climate change. And
the thing that's interesting about Kiribati.
So Kiribati, the thing about Kiribati is that Kiribati is said to be the first ever country to go completely the first ever country which is going to go completely underwater due to climate change. And in the next 30 years, it's going to be completely uninhabitable, all 21 currently inhabited islands. And also, in the next 80 years, the tallest point in any of the islands is going to be completely underwater, so it's going to disappear from the face of the earth. So I went over there and I spent time in the island because I realized that I need to spend time over there to understand what it's about. And we can watch the video to see what the president had to say about it.
Great.
Within the century, our entire nation will be underwater. What we are facing, the threat of climate change, is really a challenge to our very, very survival. Trying to communicate that to the rest of the global community has been quite a mammoth task. There were times when I was so frustrated. There were times when I was so depressed that people could not understand. And people would turn around and say, "Oh, too bad." Sometimes there is this attitude that will destroy your islands, but will help you repair it. My response has been very, very simple. So you're worried about your economies? What about our survival as a people? Because nobody wins at the end of all of this. We all lose. And I think we've got to understand this.
This issue forth, and what are you doing back home? What are some of the things that you're doing?
Something that I wanted to bring attention to the world and to my fans is basically about the importance of rivers in our civilizations. That rivers has always been the seat of civilizations. Rivers been rivers has given us life basically, and we're not doing enough to protect rivers around the world. And I wanted to use the Ganga as an example because. The Ganga, very few people know that the Ganga nourishes 10% of the world's population, and that's how magnanimous that the river is. And right now, we're not taking enough care to protect the Ganga. So what I did was that I made this music video. I recorded this song with Shankar Mahadevan, and we made this music video filming the Ganga all the way from its birth in the Gangotri to where it empties out in the Bay of Bengal. And there's a subliminal messaging in this video which showcases that right up to the time that the Ganga touches the first human, and it comes under the influence of humans, right up to the time Ganga is absolutely pure. And then it starts getting more and more filthy all the way to the Bay of Bengal.
So we are actually going to get off the stage. So we're going to play the video so you can truly enjoy it. Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
त्रिपथगा दिव्या शीततोया अशैवला सुरेश्वरी भगवती गंगे त्रिभुवन तारिणी तरल तरंगे देवी सुरेश्वरी भगवती गंगे त्रिभुवन तारिणी तरल तरंगे शंकर मौली विहारिणी विमले मम मतिरास्तां तव पद कमले अलकानंदे परमानंदे कुरु करुणामय कातरवंगे तव तट निकटे यस्य निवासः खलु वैकुंठे तस्य निवासः